Hey, everybody. Today, I'm talking with Sean Foster, who's from Warrington, England. In 2020, Sean's wife, Taylor, passed away shortly after giving birth to their second child. At that moment, Sean's life completely changed. He became both a grieving husband and a single father to a newborn and also to a toddler. Since then, he's been navigating his own grief while raising two children who will grow up without their mom. We'll talk about how he's carried both his grief and theirs, the guilt and anxiety that comes with parenting through loss, and the ways he's kept Taylor present in their home. Sean also started a podcast. It's called The Next Minute. To all my listeners, I'd love for you guys to give it a listen. He's using his podcast to share his journey and support others who are also walking through grief. Sean, thanks for being here, man.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Of course, yeah. It's late. It's England. It's 8 o'clock here. We're recording in the States. It's like almost one. Well, it's a little
1
past
a.m. Yeah.
1 a.m. now. Yeah, it's late. So I'd really thank you for being on. I really appreciate it, and for being on so late. And pre-roll, Sean was talking about how he's a night owl, and that he's an Everton fan. I'm a Liverpool fan. So we'll see how this goes. Sean, thanks again for joining me, man. To start, I'd love to kind of just talk about who you are today. As a dad, as a person, and what does life look like for you right now?
So right now it's pretty full on. I know we'll touch on it a little bit later, but like I said, struggled with anxiety, depression, grief. So what I've really tried to do more recently, particularly this year, is try to understand it more. So I've started quite a few courses that I've been doing over the last couple of months. I've obviously started the podcast, but I'm working full time. So I'm trying to fit all that in around being a full-time dad as well. So it's all pretty much full on, constantly non-stop. We've got the dogs sort of going off in the background as well. But it's rewarding. Everything that I'm doing there's a purpose to it now where I've not really had that before. I've not really had that kind of drive and that passion, but I'm feeling like now I'm at a point where I do have that purpose. I know what I'm doing. And I mean, the two boys obviously sleep now, but it's for them. I'm trying to understand more about what I've been through, what they're going through or going to go through. So when those things do come up, I'm there ready to help them, support them as best I can, really.
Mm, yeah. What is purpose? I mean, what is like the biggest purpose right now then?
The biggest purpose is probably just navigate, just sort of get through life. I've got full-time work at the minute. I really want to get into something where I'm supporting people. My purpose behind that is that I've kind of inadvertently, the kids are seeing what I'm doing and they're now trying to do it. So my eldest, Elijah, he's really into sort of helping the homeless. And all that came from was just a random conversation with a guy outside of one of our stores. We just sort of had a conversation with him, talked about him, how he got to where he was. And that really had an impact on Elijah. What I want to do from seeing how much he wants to help people is sort of giving me that drive as well. So he's kind of inspired me just from one conversation, and if he can see what I can put into it, then they can obviously see that from a role model, and that's really my main purpose, is just be that role model for them.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that I'm a dad of two as well, so I can speak on that, right? But I mean, life is so busy.
Yeah,
I also work a full-time job. And we have I'm not sure how old your youngest is, just over two now then. Is that right?
he'll be 5, so we lost Taylor in 2020.
That's right. Wow. 2020.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I have a 7-month-old and a 4-year-old. So like I know 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds are pretty crazy. Uh,
yeah,
Man, that must like that's like so much. I mean, and I think about with two, wow, that's like so much work, right? Because like you have life, you have just regular
yeah,
life, and then you have work, but then you're also a dad, and like I think it's hard, and I have a helper with me, like I have my wife, and so
yeah.
I can't even imagine like what it feels like to have to do all of these things and then carry all that weight on it, and like you still have to be a parent at the end of the day, and not only that, but you're also a grieving parent. What is
Yeah.
that like?
The biggest challenge I really found with it was, so I didn't really grieve at the start. I focused on Elijah and Koa. Obviously, Koa was only a baby. He was 12 hours old when his mum died. But I knew his grief would eventually come. and it started to around 3 or 4 years old. Elijah is more sort of perceptive. He was obviously more aware of it. He was 2 when she passed. But at roughly a similar age, 3 or 4, that's when he really started to process it. So I didn't really focus on my own grief, and that's probably what was part of sort of leading me into that sort of depression and anxiety and sort of going down that route. But I was kind of grieving for the kids, worried what they'd lost, what Taylor was missing out on as well. Now they're at school, they've got the nativities, they've got the plays coming up. Even just seeing how they're doing, just in the general development, it's what she's missing out on. But then when I turn up, and are they looking at, like, for an extra seat? So you do have that element of guilt where you're like, you are the one there, you're the one experiencing it, but you kind of feel like the others are missing out because they're not here, and then they're missing out because the mum's not there as well. But yeah, navigating grief as a parent or the surviving parent it's been tough. Hey, it's been a really big learning curve. When I did start to deal with my own grief, it was probably 2-3 years down the line. Sort of took a step back, and it's kind of that analogy when you're on a plane. If the masks come down, you put your own on first because that's how you help others. If you end up unconscious, you can't. And that was the sort of position I got myself into. I was in a state where I wasn't fit to support anyone. I wasn't really fit to be a dad at that, at my lowest point. And that was because I wasn't looking after myself. I was more focused on their survival and how they're coping than my own. And looking back, yeah, there is an element where obviously you've got to look out for them as well, but you've got to make sure you've got that time for yourself.
Yeah.
We touched on a little bit earlier where this is my time. I'm a night owl. So this is my free time. So this is where I get to do, my editing on a podcast or to read a book or watch a film. 1 o'clock in the morning it's my time. That's
Sure.
when I've done all I need to do, the washing. But yeah, it's
Wow, man.
full on.
Yeah, that's definitely full on. Yeah. And, like you had it kind of going back to what you had said, your youngest was 12 hours old and your oldest was 2 years old at the time when Taylor had passed.
Yeah.
Maybe like just kind of going into this a little bit more, but like what was it like stepping into fatherhood in that moment and you're carrying your grief, but you're also carrying their grief?
Yeah. I mean, I felt like I was on a factory reset. I was kind of, when we had Elijah, when we had our first, I was very much looking at Taylor as my sort of guide as a parent. Now, I knew I was a good dad. I'd always do what I needed to. I'd always provide, support him. But I was like the silly parent. I'd just have a laugh with him, play fight with him, and stuff like that. And Taylor was like the kind of one who was like, right, it looks like he's ill. Let's go and take him to the doctors. I'm like, oh, he's fine. We'll just have a scrap. He'll be fine.
Yes, yeah.
So when Koa came along and we lost Taylor, it was kind of like, right, I've not got that reassurance now. So I was just second guessing myself. I was doubting everything I was doing. It was, like I said, it was just literally like a factory reset. It was like, how do I be a dad again? But then how do I fill the gap of a mum as well? And I put a lot of pressure on myself to fill both roles. And I've said it quite a lot to quite a few people that sort of mums are more, it's natural. Well, it's more natural to a lot of women to be a mum. Whereas I felt like when Elijah was there, it was natural for me to be a dad. I wanted to be a dad. It was the main thing I wanted to be in life was to be a dad. When we obviously lost Taylor, I felt like I just didn't know how to be a dad. Didn't know how to be a parent. Um, it was there. It had just gone. I didn't know how to do it all again. And I think it's just where you get in your own head. And like I said, you're doubting yourself, then you feel like you're doing everything wrong. And one of the things I did because I thought it was the right thing to do was we had Cora in his Moses basket and I kept him downstairs. So I slept on the couch for the first 6 months.
Mm,
Just so when I'm getting up to feed him through the night and if he gets up crying, he's not disturbing Elijah. So literally for the first 6 months I was downstairs on the couch. My back's still paying for it now. But that was just the things where you think, right, that's what I should do. And probably I should have just been upstairs in bed. But like I said, you overthink things and you just get in your own head with a lot of the decisions, don't you?
yeah. No. I mean, I can't imagine. I really can't even imagine putting myself in that position, right? Because I looked to my wife all the time, because you're right, like, women are like, they're natural caregivers,
Yeah.
and we're not, right? So, I mean, I can't even imagine if Kylie, even when, like, if maybe she goes away for a couple hours, like, "Okay, I can handle this for a couple hours," right? Like, I can make some executive decisions with my kids,
Yeah.
but also knowing that, like, she'll come back and I have that support must be I can't imagine, must be so difficult, and then also, like, you're still grieving this. Yeah, it's just, what a position, man, like, I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
Have you started talking to the children about their mom as and, like, kind of
Yeah.
like, kind of with them as they've grown? Like, what does that look like for you? What does that look like for them?
Yeah. So I tried to get as much advice as I could early on. One, because I knew particularly Elijah at 2 would probably start to question, "Where's mum?" And a lot of the advice I got, it was to be blunt. It was to be, tell them that she's died, tell them, what the finality of death is, she can't come back. Uh, but also to tell them that it wasn't her choice. She didn't want to go. It was nothing they'd done. We've got like a library of books that we went through. But yeah, so from an early age, pretty much straight away. I think it took maybe a couple of months before I really started to get into it with Elijah. But I tried to sort of reinforce that, as unnatural as it felt. It felt cruel in a way. But seeing how he handles those conversations now, seeing how the both of them, you know, we get it a lot of times where, in fact, it happened at the weekend. It was at one of their friends' parties at the play centre, and Elijah had hurt himself, and this lady going over to him, looking after him, said, "Oh, we'll go find your mum." So, I'm always that. That's a big part of my anxiety, is they're going to say something about the mum. They're going to ask where the mum is. Elijah wasn't bothered. It was natural to him. He was like, "Oh yeah, don't worry." But he actually said, "Oh, she's died, but my dad's over there." Like it was nothing. It's just it. And I think for me, it's his life. That's his reality, and I'm still getting used to that, even 5 years on. But for him, he's like, "Yeah, it's just very matter of fact."
Mm,
Nicole's the same. We'll talk about it daily. We've still got our ashes, and what they do is most nights they'll kind of swap who's got her in her bedroom, and it was really that came from a widow support group I was in years ago. I didn't really know what to do with her ashes, and this is one that stops me from being lonely. But yeah, what somebody mentioned that what they did with her husband's ashes, they kept him on the mantelpiece in the playroom. So whenever the kids were playing, it was like he was there.
mm,
And I like that idea. So rather than
yeah.
rushing to, getting her interned or buried, I like that idea. So we've kept her around. She was in the playroom for a while. But I have those discussions with them. What do you want to do with mum now? Do you want her to go in your room? Do you want to stay in the playroom? And like I said, their decision was they'll just swap whose room she's in each day. And it's quite funny because every now and then they'll forget to swap, and they'll go, "Oh, you've had her for 2 days, so I get her for 2 days." Like, "Oh yeah, that's fine," but they never argue. It's just, "Oh yeah, yeah, actually I forgot, so yeah, you can have her for 2 days." I did a little video for Elijah as well, because he probably 3 years ago he went through a phase where he was really struggling, particularly with like his memories. So we got him like a journal, and he started to write his memories down and things like that. And bear in mind, he was only, I think it must have been 4 or 5 then. Uh, so he's drawing pictures, writing down in this journal, and he's just writing his memories. And then that kind of evolved into, I put a video together for him on YouTube, just pictures of him and his mum, and then he can find that wherever he is. So if he's staying out at his nan's or his auntie's or wherever, he doesn't need a particular device or anything like that. He can just search on YouTube and it's right there for him. Um, but the one thing I noticed with Elijah talking about his memories, Cole was kind of piggybacked on them. So he'll say, "Oh, I remember when mum was doing this with me."
Mm,
And in my, like, my heart sinks when I hear that, because I know, but obviously in his head he's like, "Oh yeah, mum used to like do crafts with me. Mum used to draw with me. I remember when mum did this." I'm like, "Oh."
mm,
But then I kind of like, not encourage it, but I'm like, "Oh, yeah, of course, yeah," and we'll sort of have, like, a conversation about the things that she did. And obviously they're Elijah's memories, but you kinda don't wanna take them away from him as well.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, does does Elijah and Koa, are they actively asking questions about her? I mean, because I love,
Yeah,
I think it's, I mean, it breaks my heart, right, to think that, I mean, yeah, I know you guys are doing this in like in a positive way of, mom
yeah,
is in your room or mom's in my room, and I love that. I mean, but it also breaks my heart to even think about that as,
yeah,
as a little boy to, but it seems like almost like them, like it's so normal.
yeah.
It's just becomes like so second nature for them. But do they actively ask questions, or what do those conversations look like with them?
Yeah, they kinda go through phases. So, I get it more often with Elijah. He'll come up and talk to me and say, "Oh, I'm missing mum today." And then he'll either start talking. I say, "Do you want to," like I said, "look at the pictures? Do you want me to tell you a story about mum?" And sometimes I'll sort of go through, the story about how we got together, or a funny story about when we went to the zoo and things like that. Uh, but I kind of let him lead the conversation. Does he want to talk about mum? Does he want to just look at pictures? Does he want to go and write or draw in his journal? But yeah, those conversations are quite frequent. Probably say at least 3, 4 times a week. A lot of the times it is positive, but I think it happened only 2 days ago. Came over to me, he was really upset. He was asleep, to be fair. It was around 11 o'clock at night, and he just came in. I think he must have had a dream, and he just said he was missing his mum. And then he just sort of sat on me for a little while, but he didn't want to talk. He just wanted to sit there, have a cuddle. 10, 15 minutes later, that was all he needed, just that,
Mm,
that little bit of time.
yeah.
And then he went back to bed. But yeah, I think the biggest thing I found is letting them tell me what they need. When those questions or those feelings come up. Uh, like with Cole, sometimes he'll get angry. So we've got a punch bag now, so he'll go and hit that for a little bit if he needs to. Uh, we'll go and like let him scream into his pillow, whatever he needs to do.
Yeah.
But the polar opposite is Cole's my feral child. He's the most loving child, but he's absolutely feral when he wants to be. But that's kind of how he processes it. Whereas Elijah's more sort of articulate. He'll talk to you and he'll do something productive, like I said, write in his journal. But with Cora, it's more like I just need to get it out. And I think at a time Elijah was probably the same, and it's just how they start to understand and start to process those emotions that are behind it as well.
Sure, yeah, and it's interesting because I was gonna ask too is, do you see it like, do you see differences in the way that the way that Elijah grieves versus the way that Koa is grieving?
Yeah.
It seems like there's a huge difference. I mean, at least, and it seems like it's more age-based.
Yeah, I
Koa
think so.
Koa wants to punch and scream, and, Elijah wants to reflect or cuddle, ask questions, things like that.
Yeah.
So interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
What I mean, with all of that, like, what does it mean for you to grieve yourself while also grieving on their behalf? Do you still find yourself grieving on their behalf even at this point?
Yeah. The way I kind of see it is it's always there, whether it's for myself or even for them. There's usually certain events that will trigger it, like birthdays, anniversaries, things like that. And I kind of started to, like I said, I really wanted to try and get a grip of, what it was and when it sort of comes up. I had to prepare myself. And the best way I can kind of, sort of imagine it in my head is, do you remember the old like Windows logo when you on your screensaver, it used to bounce around the screen?
Yeah.
I just kind of picture like a ball in a box, just doing the same thing, but in that box you've got like a little grief button, and every now and then that ball's going to hit the grief button. It's going to trigger those emotions, depending on what's going on at the time. Like I said, they'll be starting back to school next week, so that's going to be an emotional week. Birthdays, anniversaries, that button's going to be a little bit bigger, so it's going to get hit. And when it gets hit, and if it's not been hit for a while, it tends to be a lot more raw, a lot more impactful when it does hit. Um, and that's probably the best way I can describe it, or it makes sense to me, is it's just always there. You're not necessarily always going to know when it's going to hit or how hard it's going to hit as well. But yeah, I think and it's the same for those. It hits random and it hits hard when it does, because you've got
Sure.
that longer time where it's just building up.
Wow. Wow, man. I mean, that. Yeah, I just think about baby, my experience of my parents was I was much older, right? So, 15 for my dad and 26 for my mom, much older. So I can't even compare the two because it's totally different. Especially like mature, like emotional maturity is a little bit different. And I can say like
Yeah,
what it looks like at 15 was much more different than what it looked like at 26.
yeah,
So I can't even imagine what it looks like as a little boy. Uh, it must be. I can't even imagine. It's totally different, right?
yeah.
And kind of just like shifting gears a little bit about that was, you had spoken to me. We had talked about this, in a pre-roll a little bit. Was like you've spoken about like your overwhelming guilt as a dad.
Mm.
Can you share like what that feels like?
Yeah, it's sometimes it just breaks you. Um, it happened so the first time Elijah started school, he had his first, sort of, a school play. He had a little speaking part in it, um, but as soon as I walked in and saw him, I just broke down. So I'm in a room full of, like, obviously a school full of kids, a room full of school kids, and then I've got all the parents next to me. But for some reason, I chose to go on my own, so I didn't take anybody with me, which is probably a mistake on my part. So I felt alone going in, and then I felt guilty as soon as I saw them because you see all the other parents together. There's couples as parents, and there's always usually a mum and dad, and it just hits you as soon as you see it. You're like, she should be here, and that's a lot of the thing that gets me is that she should be here. She should be experiencing those times with me. She should be, celebrating birthdays with me. And when it hits, it consumes me. I can't really describe how hard, but you can physically feel it like, in your chest, and there's like a weight there, and it's not shifting. And you try to hold it in, or I tried to hold it in because obviously where I was, didn't want to just have a complete breakdown in a room full of people. I think because I was trying to hold it in and hold it together, that was just building up, and it just has to come out. Luckily, there was a couple of parents in front of me who were from. I think their kid was in Elijah's class as well, so they kind of knew my story and what I was going through. And luckily, they kind of heard me. They just weeping behind them, so they sort of just looked around, and it was just all it took was just like just a little hand on the knee, just to say, we're here.
Mhm.
And then from that, I just started to feel a bit better, eased a little bit. I had someone there who, I could lean on if needed. But yeah, as soon as the guilt hits, it just takes over. I am prepared for it. I know it's going to hit sometimes, but I say I'm not prepared for it, but I know when it's going to hit sometimes.
Yeah. I don't think we're ever prepared for that, right?
No,
We're never yeah, like you can feel it building, and but you never like you kind of like anticipate that it's coming, but you never it's just like you can't avoid it and you just know that's gonna happen.
yeah,
I'd love to know just your thoughts about it, right? Because they're so young, but with you being a grieving dad and feeling overwhelming guilt and anxiety,
yeah,
what do you think that or how do you think Koa and Elijah feel about that? Like what do you think they see?
yeah. I think Elijah probably sees it. Like, he's really perceptive. He knows when I'm struggling. And he'll usually come over. Um, but I'm open with them. So as soon as he says, "You okay?" If somebody else asks me, I'll just be like, "No, yeah, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. I'm just a little bit tired." But with him, and Corey, it's usually Elijah that comes over. But I'll just be open and say, I'm struggling. I'm thinking about mom. And like I said, I'll just have an open conversation with him. And my thought process with it, and I am seeing the benefits of doing this now. Now that he's 7, and he's processing things a little bit more maturely, is that he's understanding that when I'm talking to him, he should be doing the same. So if he's struggling, he can open up himself.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I wanted to do that. And do it with Cora as well. I try and show them that there's different sort of coping mechanisms. And I think Cole probably, like, he gets maybe jealous, of the memories when Elijah's talking about her,
Sure.
and I
Sure.
think
Yeah.
that's probably why he starts to piggyback, or I don't know if he's getting confused or if he just wants those memories,
Mhm.
and then you can kind of see, like, Elijah starting to go, "Actually, no, because you, and he'll say sometimes, you only had 12 hours with her, so you can't have been drawing with her. So I'm like, oh God. Yeah, they're just very matter of fact about it. But Cole will argue to the death that he definitely, was sat there drawing with his mum.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. And it's those conversations where you kind of like have to take a minute and like, right, process what's going on. How do I handle this? And I feel like I'm very cautious in the way that I do approach it. I want to show them that they can talk, but how they kind of should be talking as well, and what different tools you can use as well. Like I said, with Corey, he's very much, he wants to get it out physically, but I've started to show them like different sort of breathing techniques. We went through a phase of doing like meditation if he was getting a bit overwhelmed and things like that. Just show them there's different ways to try and cope and process what's going on.
Something I thought this was really interesting. It just popped in my head too. Is just yesterday I was doing an interview with Zulma Williams. She's a therapist here in the States. We were talking. She had lost her mom when just like within the last 10 years or so. But one thing that she explained to me was she was kind of going back to when she had lost her mom. She has a brother and a sister, and it made me think about this in my own situation. And I wonder if maybe Koa and Elijah might think of this. I don't think they'll probably think about this now because I think they're young, but I wonder if maybe they'll think of this as they get older. Is what Zulma was saying was that she had to remember that when her mom passed, she had her own experience with her mom, and her brother and sister had their own experiences with their mom. And so it's like you kind of get into this mindset of I've lost my mom, I've lost my dad.
Yeah,
But yes, you have, but also they've lost their mom or they've lost their dad. And so I
yeah,
wonder if maybe that might be something that they might think about as they get older of and I don't know, maybe with like Koa, he's kind of maybe he's piggybacking on memories because he is jealous that he didn't, because Elijah's like, well, I've all these memories with my mom,
yeah,
and Koa's like, I'm gonna grow up without any memories with my mom, and
yeah,
that is heartbreaking all by itself. Him maybe piggybacking, maybe something for Elijah is like, hey man, like your brother didn't get those memories, but because you experienced it in a certain way, and he was, he's only 12 hours, but he's
yeah,
now experiencing this in his own way. And
yeah,
I was thinking about that just now of like, it's so interesting to think, and it made me think about this because in my own situation of, I have two older sisters, and I always thought like I lost my dad, I lost my best friend, he was my best friend, I lost him, and I never even stopped to think about in the 20 years since until I met with Zulma yesterday was my sisters who were much older than me, like they experienced it in their own way. Like
yeah,
they lost their dad too. And when we lost our mom, they lost their mom, and some of them had a better relationship with mom than I'd had with my mom. And so it's just very interesting. I don't know. I don't know if that sits with you in any way.
yeah. It does probably more from losing Taylor rather than from the kids' side, but I would expect they would get to that stage. So what it resonated with me was probably took a little while, but it was probably when I started counselling. Um, But I kind of did the same. I've lost my wife. The kids have lost their mum, but she was much more than that. She was a daughter, she was a sister,
Hmm.
she was a friend, a sister-in-law, uh, and it probably only hit me. So I got counselling through for PTSD, and what kind of came from that was I'd suppressed a memory from the day when Taylor died, and it was Taylor's mum saying to me, "Why did I let it happen?" Now, when that happened, it kind of hit me. I was like, "Oh, well, I didn't." But then I kind of suppressed it for, I can't remember, it was around 6 months until I got, treated for PTSD. And then when I processed it and I spoke to Taylor's mum after, and she was like, she didn't even remember saying it. And then when I've spoke to other people about it, like, oh, I can't believe she said that. Then my first response was, well, she just lost a daughter. She's not going to know what she's saying a lot of the time,
Right.
um, in that moment. And yeah, from what you were just saying, was it Zulma had mentioned
Zulma,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, it's really just kind of resonated with me there.
Right. Yeah. It
Yeah,
does, doesn't it? Like,
yeah,
and even with you talking about it now with Taylor, I'm thinking like, you're right. Like she was more than a wife and she was more
yeah,
than a mom. Like she was someone's daughter. she was somebody's friend. It's so interesting that we and it to me it was or to her in her situation she was thinking of like not really in a selfish way of like uh because it can sound selfish of like, "That's my mom.
Yeah.
I lost my mom." That can sound a little selfish, right? I think. But I don't think I definitely know she didn't mean it like that. But her siblings took it that way, right? Like,
Yeah.
they took it of like, "You're being selfish," or, "I can't believe you would say that." That is such an interesting thing to think about when we lose somebody. There's so much more than what they were to us,
Yeah.
you know? They're everything to us, but they're also
Yeah.
something to somebody else.
Yeah.
And, you had kinda had touched on this too, was you had said to me that the anxiety that you had has cost you memories with the kids. What
Yeah.
what what did you mean by that?
So I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier where it was at the play centre and somebody came over to Elijah and said, "Oh, we'll go find your mum." When I first lost Taylor, I was adamant that I'm going to get out there. I'm going to be the best dad. I'm going to take them out. I'd take them both out, and it probably within 6 to 8 weeks, I just completely stopped. Even taking Koa for his checkups at the hospital where Taylor died. The nurse who was doing his checkups had said, "Oh, make sure you tell mum he's been a brave boy." And I'm sat there like, she died upstairs. And I know there's not going to be like a big flashing warning sign on his file, but it just kind of gets you. And it happened quite a few times. People would be out and be like, "Oh, you're giving mum a rest today," and little things like that. And it happened with Elijah, to be fair, when Elijah was born and I'd take him out on my own. You don't really think about it. You thought, "Oh, yeah, she's just having she's gone for
Yeah,
a spa day or whatever."
yeah,
But it really started to hit me. It's like I said, after 6 to 8 weeks, I just stopped it. I wouldn't go out on my own. So if I ever went out with the kids, I'd make sure my sister was there. My mum, just basically a woman was there,
yeah,
so
yeah,
to kind of stop that question coming in. Um, and it was around 3 years that lasted for. And it only stopped when I started attending a men's peer-to-peer support group here in the UK called Andy's Man Club. And it's literally just a peer-to-peer support group. There's no trained professionals in there, and if they had to leave that at the door, it's just a place where you can go and just get stuff off your chest. And I kind of went in thinking, my problems aren't as big. Probably don't need this. Completely wrong. But one guy there just turned around and said, "Anxiety makes your world smaller." And as soon as he said that, I was like, "You're right." I'm stopping. Like I said, these experiences with the kids. I'm stopping making memories because I'm worried that somebody's gonna say something that I
sure,
know I've handled before. Those questions have come up before, those comments have come up before, and I've handled them. So what makes me think I can't handle them now? Like I
right,
said, it was 3 years, and all it took was that one random comment. And that weekend, I went out with the kids. I think we was out for about 8 hours. Went for a walk through the forest, had a picnic. I went to a cafe. We just had an amazing day, and all it took was that little switch to say,
yeah,
I'm making my world smaller here. Let's stop that."
right, yeah. Wow, man. And too, like, imagine if you would have let that continue.
Yeah,
You have to imagine these these sweet boys are gonna grow up and they're just like, "Well, I never got to have these memories with my dad because
yeah,
he just he kind of fell into his grief and was find a way out of it." So I mean, like, well, first of all, like, kudos to you because like think that right there alone, if like I think of it in the sense of a caring father for his kids would take care of himself so that he
yeah,
can take care of his kids, right? So, like, for myself, right, like, I get up this is different, but, like, I get up almost every day, 5 or 5:30 in the morning, and that's me time. That's, like, time for I fill myself up.
yeah,
I spend time in the Bible, or I get my workout in, right? Like, I'm filling myself up so that when my
yeah,
girls wake up at 7, like, I'm fully like filled up so that I can pour into them. And it's
yeah,
like you're doing the same thing. And I think like, what imagine if you would have just let that go and you would have just continued to fall into that grief and that
yeah,
anxiety. And then these boys are just growing up and they're like, I never got to have these memories with my dad of going to the, on a picnic or going for a walk
yeah,
because he just fell into his grief. And so, yeah, I mean, that's really amazing. And that kind of makes me think too is, you know, and I was gonna ask you is, how do you balance, because you're taking care of your own mental health, right?
Yeah.
But then, like, how are you balancing that with, like, the kids' stability as well? Because, like, you
Yeah.
you have to take care of yourself still, and it's
Yeah.
just you, like, you're on your own, but also, like, you're thinking of the boys, and so, like, what does it look like balancing your health, your mental health with their stability?
Yeah. I'd probably say this year, like I said, is probably the first time where I'm really focusing on it. I started Annie's Man Club 2 years ago. I think it was July 2023, and I do that every week. So I go there every week, every Monday, and I go it's 2 hours. My parents will watch the boys for me. They know it's important, and it kind of sets the week off for me. So, like you said, you're filling yourself up. You're making sure you. I use that to basically getting all my frustrations out. If something's happened at work, or if the kids have been a little bit difficult that week, I'm going there on a Monday. I'm getting stuff off my chest. I'm not taking that stuff home. I get it out. I leave it in that room, and I'll come home when I'm a lighter person. I've left it. I've left it there. Um, this year, like I said, I've really started to sort of push myself, in a positive way. Learning has been a big thing for me, particularly over the past few months. So, just completed a training and education course, mental health first aid course,
Mm,
and a counselling course. I've signed up to a children and young people's mental health course as well. And that in itself, I didn't realise the benefits of learning that it has on your mental health. That's been, had a huge impact, even to the point where I took one of the courses on. I think it was for 5 or 6 weeks, but it clashed with the Andy's Man Club sessions that I was doing. But I knew I was in a good position where I didn't need to go each week. From doing the other courses, it kind of built up, my social circle. I was
sure, yeah.
making friends through learning. I was feeling accomplished. Too early, I feel like I've got a purpose again. And it's giving me that bit of a drive. Got the dogs, so with my anxiety, I wasn't going out. I would maybe get out on a walk, but I'd do that, if the kids were at nursery, if the kids were being looked after by somebody else, I wouldn't do it with the kids. Um, and going back to the anxiety, a part of that was if one of them got injured, could I deal with it?
Mm,
If one of them had a tantrum, could I deal with it? If we was out on a walk, or if they ran opposite directions, which one do I pick? It's all those scenarios where they're unlikely, but you just running through them. And there was even points where I'd get us ready to go out, we'd be ready to head out the door, and I'd find an excuse not to go out. I'd just change my mind and go back in.
wow.
Like I said, I've done a lot of work. One of the big things I focus on now is, um, if those thoughts do come up, I try and reassure myself that if a scenario does come up where I've got to handle it, I look back and go, they've come up before.
Sure.
I've handled it. I know what I'm doing. I know I've got the strength to do it now. And a lot of it has come from the confidence I've got from, um, the different things I've been doing, like I said, over the last year or two. But yeah, having that time for yourself, I think is crucial. Whether it's your time in the morning, whether it's attending a support group or learning, making that time for yourself is you need it. You need it to sort of re-energize yourself and get yourself ready for whatever's coming the next day.
Yeah. And what are the I guess, like, what are the boys doing for their mental health with it?
Yeah, so like I said, Elijah's really good. We've got him a couple of journals. So art was one of the big things that his mum was into, and he does remember kind of drawing with her, colouring in with her, and things like that. So his link to his mum is through art. So in fact, I've got like the whole wall here. It's just covered in their artwork from nursery.
That's so cool.
So that's it's my favourite wall. I've got it. So this is where I sit for work as well. So when I'm getting stressed at work, I just look up and go, right, there's Coa's handprint, there's Elijah's handprint, there's a picture of Coa. But yeah, particularly Elijah loves his art. That's how he deals with it. Um, he's really good at talking about it because we have those conversations at home. In fact, in his school report last year, one of the comments was how they've never had a child at 6, 7 years old that year who's able to communicate his emotions and his feelings the way he is. And the best thing for me was that there was a line in there that said he's having that impact on the others, and he's helping the others in his class as well. And I was like, I've never been as proud, reading
Way to
something
go,
like that.
buddy. Yeah, way to go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good for him.
So, and then like we talked about earlier, Coa's is a little bit different. Probably at the stage where similar to Elijah was obviously at that age. He's really starting to get those emotions coming through. We're trying different things. It's a bit of trial and error with Cora at the minute. And we know some things that work for him. We find out things that don't. Uh, he's not one at the minute to sit down and um, write or draw. He'd rather be active. So we'll see if he wants to go out for a dog walk, if he wants to go and use the punch bag. And we've got a gym set up in the garage now, so sometimes he'll just say, "I need to go and have a workout." Just go and do like some sit ups or something.
That
But
kid's
it's
gonna
his
be
way,
jacked, you know?
which is terrifying because he's great at punching at 5. Yeah, so it's like I said, it's just trial and error, see what works for them. I
Yeah.
try and let them lead it. I'll give them suggestions. If it doesn't work for them, we'll go back to the drawing board. But yeah, it's very much just, I think it's called person centered. So you find out what works for that person, and then you kind of adapt your approach to what works.
I'm gonna have to learn that from my 5-year-old because my 4-year-old, yeah. Uh,
Yeah,
I mean, I guess, but, also besides the, um, the art and the punching bag and the workouts, and I know, they're sharing their mom in their
yeah,
bedroom. What else are they doing to keep their mom's memory alive?
yeah. So we've got in. So Cole's room used to be the playroom. It was the bigger room. So we've moved him into there now. Uh, on there, I've got like a wall, and it's just full of pictures of sort of mine and Taylor's journey.
Mm,
So the picture from when we first got together, picture when we got engaged, married, picture on days out, and I kind of set it up so it tells a bit of a story. So every now and then if they want to talk, we'll go and sit on Cutler's bed now. We used to have a bench in there, but we just go and sit down and we'll sort of talk through the different pictures and what the story is behind them. Um, we've got we've got some teddies that were made up of Taylor's pajamas. They sleep with those. Cole's got a picture with him and his mum on a pillow, so he sleeps with that every night. Um, yeah, she's everywhere in this house.
that's amazing.
um, yeah, we actually went to looking at a plot for her when we come to bury her. So what we did was we went to a site where it's not a typical graveyard. So you have like plaques, wooden plaques, and you're in basically a field. You're in a forest, um, and it's all natural. So there's no sort of gravestones. There's nothing like that. You're just basically in the woods. And Taylor was very much into like Tinkerbell and fairies and things like that. And it just seemed like the perfect place if she was going to be buried anywhere. That was where we had the funeral. And I always said to the kids, it's up to them when we, eventually bury her. But I said I wanted you to see this because we talked about it before, but they didn't want to go and see it. So eventually, like I said, at the weekend we did get down there, and they loved it. Elijah did get a little bit upset because like I'm not ready to bury her yet, and I said we don't have to. I just
Yeah.
wanted you to know that she's going to be in a nice place when we do. And I spoke to him after, and he said he actually loved it, and he's happy that she's going to be in a really nice place. So I was
Wow.
like, that's all I needed, just knowing that the decisions I'm making was right for him, well for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Do you guys still visit that spot from time to time?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we'll go now. We've got a couple of like plaques. We've got one at a zoo, in the
Wow.
UK called Chester Zoo, and
That's
that was
cool.
where we had our first date. So we've got a plaque up on the wall in there. So every time we go each year, we'll go and sort of find the plaque. But yeah, anything that's sort of linked to Taylor where there's a story, we'll try and incorporate it somewhere. Even if it's just a day out, we'll go to the zoo or we've been looking at the old houses where we used to live, and it's very much just keeping her alive through the stories and
Sure.
sort of keeping a memory alive.
I mean, these kids they'll have so many places as they grow up to remember
Yeah,
her. I mean, that's amazing, right? I mean, I have like one place for like where my dad is buried, right? But I live, you know, 7, 8, 10 hour drive away from that,
Yeah,
from when I was a kid. But yeah, I mean, like these boys will grow up and they'll have so many places that they can turn and see that, and I can only imagine
yeah,
what that like how much joy that will bring them as they
yeah.
grow. And I think you were starting to say it too. Do you guys have like other traditions or stories that you've built out to help them know their mom?
Yeah, so she loved coffee, so Starbucks was a big part of our life. So it only happened this year, actually, but we kind of accidentally started a tradition. So I picked them up from school. I was shattered. This was in the middle of me doing the different courses, but I just didn't want, the day to go without getting Taylor a coffee. So on her anniversary, on her birthday, I'll always go to Starbucks and I'll still order her a coffee, and I always make sure we get it. So it says skinny caramel latte. Missing something there. Skinny sugar-free caramel latte. That's the one. They always order it, and it just kind of sits there, and then I'll just sort of hand it back, or I'll drink it if I'm thirsty. But this year we drove down to Starbucks and we sort of got the cups, and I said, "Can we get them takeaway cups?" Because it was pretty late. I thought they might want to get back, so I got them just in case. But then what happened was, Conrad brought his pens in. Then they both started drawing pictures of the mum on the coffee cups.
Oh my
And then they
gosh.
started writing messages on there, and I was like, "Oh, this is." I was sat there at the table, I was almost in tears, and I was like, "This is perfect." And then Elijah just passed me a pen and said, "Go on, Dad, it's your turn." So I'm drawing on the coffee cup on the coffee cup that I bought for Taylor as well, and it was just like, it was like weird, like a perfect way to sort of celebrate her.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Wow.
just out of nowhere.
These boys. Gosh, man. Wow, I love that. That's really special. I just keep thinking like, man, they're more in tune with their emotions than I was at 15, man. Like, at
Yeah,
15, I didn't know what to do, and they're
no,
just I feel like it's such a testament to you, right? Of like
thank
you
you.
are yeah, I mean, but honestly, I'm just thinking of what would that look like for me, right, for my daughters, and I'm just like, what a true testament that is of you, of the father that you are for them. Again, like you have done something so big, which was like working through your grief and your
Yeah,
anxiety, so that you can be there for them, and then I'm just saying, like, look at these memories that you're already creating, and
yeah,
it's like they're like not even skipping a beat, you know,
no.
with their mom, and the story about them drawing on the cups is just wow, what a story, man.
No, we talked a little bit about it earlier about their own mental health, and something that just sort of came to me as we was talking then was um it came up in a course I was doing. It was one earlier in the year. I did it through, I think it's an assist course, applied suicide intervention skills training. I'd done that course, but it was through a charity over here in the UK called Papyrus, and they specifically look at supporting children and young adults with their mental health. So I think they were just talking, said that they get kids as young as 4 or 5 years old ringing their helpline, and a lot of the time they was explaining that they they're not suicidal, but they want to die because they want to go and see a loved one that they've lost.
Right.
So when I wasn't involved in that conversation, but I kind of overheard it. So I went speaking to this person after he was running the course and asked a bit more information about it. I got some resources off their website because I thought that might be something that comes up. And it just so happened it was only maybe a month ago. Um, Elijah came in to me and said Co was strangling himself. And so obviously you're like, what? It was luckily he wasn't doing it properly. He sort of come in, I was like, right, what's going on?
Yeah.
And it was because he wanted to go see his mum.
Mm.
And this is why I mentioned earlier that they talk about being, quite firm with when you explain the finality of death. And that only come from doing that course and that chance conversation that I was kind of prepared for something like that coming. So I knew where the resources were. So we just had like a long chat, spoke to him, sort of explained what it meant. He always explained, I just wanted to go see my mum and then I was going to come back. So you've got that conversation. Well, if you do that, you can't. It was just that's happened twice now. So we've got like an overflow pond near our house, and he said he was going to walk into it. Luckily, we've had a heat wave, so it was bone dry. But again, it was that thought process of if I die, I can go see my mum, but then I'll come back. So that was really tough. Having those conversations, not necessarily having the conversations, but knowing that he's got that thought process going on at
Sure.
5.
Yeah.
And it kind of sort of helps me understand why charities like Papyrus are so important. That there is somebody that you can call or you can reach out to for resource, and you've got that help right there. But yeah, that was it was one of those where you wanted to find out more about what she was saying,
Right.
hoping I wouldn't need it, and I'm
Yeah.
glad I did.
But you were prepared for that.
Yeah, luckily.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that came from the course?
Yeah, yeah, just another chance conversation,
Really?
and it wasn't part of the course, yeah.
What kind of, if there's any other parents out there that are also going through something like this, like what would you tell them? What
Just
would
be
you want them
calm,
to know?
it's the I suppose that the thought process for them is normal. I think that was probably the big thing for me is that, that's probably a natural thought process for them, but I was lucky enough that somebody had told me to be firm, explain what death meant from an early age, have those conversations with them, and probably don't be shy about having those conversations. Like I said, for me, it felt unnatural. It felt cruel in a way that you're kind of being really firm about it. But I think that having that conversation with Cole only a month ago was really like, wow, that's why you should be firm. And I would probably say actually with Cole, I probably wasn't as firm, only because I felt like I'd done it with Elijah, who'd known Taylor for obviously 2 years. Cole had her for 12 hours, so I kind of felt like I'd maybe eased on Cole just because I didn't think he would go through those same emotions.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, that would probably my advice would be just be honest with them, as firm and hard as it's gonna feel and sound. It's probably what they need to hear, and it's gonna be their best chance, really.
I mean, I can tell you from my experience, and this has happened multiple times, which is so, I mean, again, I learned so much from my guests. I really do.
Yeah,
So like, I want to say thank you because you're bringing these things up for me to think, and I'm thinking about these from my experience. And this has happened multiple times. And I would even say this happened, within like, just within the last couple of years. I've s- um, had thoughts of if I could die, like, I'll be able to see my parents again. Uh,
yeah,
and not suicidal. They're not like suicidal thoughts, but they are very much like, man, if only I could just die right now, I could go see them. I could be with them. But then I like come to and I'm thinking, well, one, death is finite, right? Like I'm not coming back to see everybody. And then of course, because I am a Christian, I think of like I think to myself, well, if I was to die, I probably would have to harm myself, most likely. And that means that I probably won't get to see them when
yeah,
we're together again. And so, but I can tell you, like, I don't know if they'll, maybe from doing these courses, but like if this is something that these are the things that they might go through for a long time, for a while. But I
yeah,
can tell you that like I was still going through those things even from the time I was 15 all the way to the time I was, 33, 34, 30.
yeah. It I don't want to say crazy, but it's crazy how those they feel natural, don't they, when they come through those, and it
They
feels
100% do.
doable.
They 100%, yes.
Yeah,
I mean, I've sat in the kitchen, like, thinking to myself, like, my wife and my this was before we had our other daughter, but I was literally be sitting in the kitchen with them, and I'm just staring out the window, right? Like, just totally not even in the room, and I'm just thinking, "Man, if I could just if I could just die right now, I could be with them. I could see them again," you know? And then my wife's like, Rob, like, what are you doing? Are you there? Like, what are we doing?" 'Cause she just thinks I'm staring out the window.
yeah,
She just thinks I'm like, maybe I'm tired, and I'm just thinking, "No, like, if only you knew that I'm just thinking if I died right now, I could just be with my parents again."
yeah. I've been there. I don't like saying I was suicidal, but there was a stage where I wanted to die. And the reason I wanted to die was, I wanted the boys to have like a full family. Um, so mother and father figure. I'd even got to a point where I'd kind of set up a plan. I knew what I was going to do, knew how I was going to do it. I even got to the stage where I'd set emails on a timer to go out at a certain time when I knew I'd done what I was planning. Um, and in my head, it was because I was looking out for them. That was how I justified it. I was making these plans because it would be for their better, and they were better off without me. Like I said, this was at the point where I was really low, I was really struggling. Um, but like I said, it was weird because I didn't want to die. I just felt like that was the only solution. And at that point, I felt like if I spoke up about how I was feeling, I was depressed, I was really struggling with my anxiety, that somebody would come along and say, "Oh, actually, he's not fit to be a dad, so we'll take the kids off him and give them to, a relative." And that was why I kind of got into that really dark place because I felt like it was the only way out
I mean,
for them.
that brought you relief. That probably brought you, like,
Yeah,
relief of,
exactly. Yeah.
like, not in a sense of I'm not hearing in a sense of, like, I don't wanna be with my boys.
No.
I just want what's best for them.
Yeah.
But it's in a low
Um,
moment, right? Where that's what we think
exactly. Yeah.
that's what we think that they need, but in reality,
Yeah.
we come out of that and we're like, "No, actually, they need me, like, and I
Yeah.
need them. That those are my boys. I'm not going anywhere without them."
Exactly. Yeah. And I knew if I did get up there, Taylor was going to boot me straight back down. And she went, "What are you doing here?"
Get back down there, Sean. You got work to do, man. Wow. Yeah. Just curious, if let's say Koa and Elijah 10 years from now or 15 years from now, they find this podcast and I hope they
Yeah,
do. But let's say like they find it and they listen to it one day, what would you want to hear? What would you want them to hear from you?
that's a tough one. What would I want them to hear from me about their mom? Probably just that I did. I don't feel like I was living until I met her. She was that kind of person who she brought out the best in you. She did it with me. She did it with people around her. Uh, she was the kind of person who, if she hadn't had a coffee in the morning, you'd be terrified of her. But as soon as she's had that coffee, she's a completely different person. But she made everyone know that, you know, she just lit up a room. I know it probably sounds cheesy to say, and a lot of people say it, but she'd walk in a room and she'd just own it. For one reason or another, whether through fear or through joy. But everyone knew when Taylor was there. The biggest thing for me was seeing how generous she was with her time, with like giving gifts and things like that. Uh, my brother talks about it quite a lot actually. He went through a divorce and he was really low. And Taylor had this idea to put him like a bit of a care package together. It's like chocolates, a couple of drinks and things like that. I I would never thought to have done that or would have thought what the impact that would have. And like I said, that was probably almost 10 years ago and he still talks about it now and the impact that had and how much it kind of helped him. But she was that kind of person, she'd go out of her way for absolutely anyone. It'd never be too much trouble for her. She was just a beautiful person in every kind of way.
She sounds like it. Yeah. That's amazing, man. Yeah. I think yeah, I think what you're saying, it resonates with me, right? They would probably want to hear like the most truthful thing about her.
Yeah,
And if that is that she was just a beautiful person who could light up
yeah,
a room, man, I think that that's probably exactly what they would want to hear. I know that's what I would
yeah,
want to hear, right? If someone
yeah,
told me that about my mom and my dad if I was that young. Yeah, you had said that your perspective had kind of shifted from I think you said that you were more of like a why us kind of mentality to really accepting that you can't change it, but that you can move forward.
yeah.
What do you think? I mean, I know we kind of probably touched on it a little bit, but what do you think moving forward looks like now for the boys?
So again, this is just another phrase I heard that kind of flicked that switch for me. And it's not about the quantity of time, it's about the quality of time. So a lot of us have got jobs to do, kids are in school. So the time we get is going to be much more than we'd want. So rather than, wasting that time, make the most of it. Um, a couple of weeks ago, the kids are on holiday. I was working and after Koa had that event with wanting to strangle himself, just put the next week off. And we just had a week of adventures. And that was, we went to museums, oh, I can't remember what we did, but we went out about to aquariums, just did a lot of things, that we wouldn't generally have time to do. So when we did it, when I took the time off, I made sure that our days were filled and we're making those memories we talked about earlier. We're just having that quality of time. And I think that's probably what's gonna be for them going forward is making sure that the time we do have is quality.
I like that. Yeah, that's really special. I mean, yeah, that's pretty special, right?
Yeah.
I know, the memories that I have with my dad, I don't know if you've listened to these even any of the episodes, but, my first episode, I kinda talked about my story a little bit,
Yeah.
and I just wanna leave this with you, though, is that some of the most fond memories I have with me and my dad are, and it's stuck with me, which is why I love it now as an adult, but I love airplanes. If
Yeah.
I hear an airplane, I just have to stop and look up at the sky. I don't know if it's a man thing or if it's just me being a little boy still, but, like, if I see a helicopter or an airplane, I have to stop what I'm doing and I have to look up. But I like to think that I attribute that to me and my dad and the memories that we had because back in the '90s, I'm sure it was probably the same in the UK, but, like, we didn't have to go through, like, TSA. Oh, you guys don't have TSA, it's probably, so you're
No.
probably lucky, but, like, we have to go through TSA, and, like, you can't just, like, go into an airport terminal and just, like you can't just do that. You have to have a ticket and
Yeah.
just do those things anymore. Back in the '90s, you could do that, in the States. I remember my dad would say in the morning, "Okay, we're gonna go to school late. I'll drop you off late." And he would take me and we would get McDonald's. We would get like a hot cake breakfast for me, and we would go to the airport and we would stand in front and sit in front of the windows and we would just watch planes come and go um,
Wow.
for like an hour. To me, it meant the world to me. My
Yeah.
dad busy. He worked in construction. He was a contractor, very busy man. But like I always think to myself, like those memories that I have with my dad, that he would take time out of his day to take me to an airport to just watch airplanes come and go for like an
Yeah.
hour, and then take me to school. And I guess if I can leave anything with you, it would be those memories. They might seem so like small to us, like as adult
Yeah.
kids, right? But I'm starting to learn as a dad too, is like those things mean the world to them.
Yeah.
They're so small to us, like
Yeah.
it could be anything, the smallest thing, but they mean so much to these kids. Yeah, if I can leave that with you, it would just be. And you're already doing it. It's not like you need my advice. I'm just saying that these memories stick with them, and so if you're taking time off to go to the aquarium or to a museum with them, like, if that's what they wanna do and that's what they love to do, they're always gonna remember that time.
Yeah.
It's
That's
special.
it. And the something you touched on there with obviously the memories of your dad. It's kind of helped me because obviously my dad's still here. He's 75 ish now. And I hope he doesn't watch this bit because I'm going to say he keeps talking about how he doesn't think he's got long left. Now, we keep joking, he's probably going to outlive us. At the minute, his thing is going for breakfast in the morning. Now, I can't generally go just because of work, but every now and then, while the kids have been off, he'll pick them up and he'll take them for breakfast. There's some days where they're like, "Oh, Dad, I don't want to go." They're like, "Oh, he's going to get you pancakes." I go, "All right, okay, then let's go." But when I am able to go, I kind of appreciate it more after, what we've been through. And when I'm going, it just sits with you a little bit more, doesn't it? Now you start to realise and process it. You appreciate what that time that you're spending a little bit more.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
really does get you.
Oh, yeah. I tell this to people that, if I'm close to them, some of my friends, well, I'm sure you experience this too. People, they will say, "Oh, I don't want to talk to my parents," or I don't want to call my parents, or I don't want to see my parents, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
And I would say, you should do it when you have time.
yeah,
And even for anyone listening who you don't have a good relationship with them, I always tell people that it's there's going to be a day that you're going to wake up and they're just not going to be here.
Yeah.
And no matter how good of a relationship you had with them, whether it was good or it was bad, you're gonna miss them. Trust me. You really
Yeah.
just will. You just will. So I love that you do that because you're so close to it, right? Like you're so close to it, you can say,
Yeah.
you're like, I can appreciate this more. I don't want to do it, but you know what? I know that he's not going to be here someday, and you're still making memories for you to look back,
Yeah.
right? It's amazing, man.
Yeah.
I love that. It kind of sounds like you've done some self-reflection from this whole thing.
Yeah.
How would you say, like, what does that look like now with the grief?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing has actually been when I started my own podcast. Like I mentioned to you earlier, I just read through the blogs that I'd written 5 years ago when Taylor first died, and I hadn't done that before. And it was quite eye opening seeing how low I was, and and the things that were going on, the things that was um. I was reading through some of them, and I think I mentioned about that's an angry blog. You can sort of read the anger through it. But then when I got to the end of it, the last blog I wrote was actually a reflection over the previous 4 or 5 months. And then being able to sort of reflect on now, 5 years later, that's really what's helped me heal is seeing the journey I've been on, witnessing it for the kids as well, and seeing the things that I'm doing now that I wasn't doing back then, and how far I've come. And self reflection's underrated, man. It's just looking back and seeing how far you've come, and
Sure.
then being proud of yourself for it as well. It's really eye opening.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you've done. I mean, you've definitely have done a lot of self reflection, and you're learning from it, right?
Yeah,
What would you want Koa and Elijah to learn from the way that you've carried all of this?
probably just not everything suits everyone. So if you find something that works for you in terms of coping, so like I said with Cole, if he wants to go and do boxing at a gym, or Elijah if he wants to pick up art, or if they want to do meditation, it's not always going to work for everyone. But if it works for you, That's that's what you need to do. Probably the biggest thing as well is no matter what you're feeling, it's normal, it's natural. It might feel alien at the time, but guarantee you speak to somebody else in the same situation, they'll have the same kind of feelings going on. So probably just to feel those emotions and find your own way of processing them and dealing with them.
Something that I learned from Lydia, she's a therapist out in Nashville in the States. I had her on a couple weeks ago, and one thing that she had taught me was that the emotions that we feel, they typically only last for 90 seconds. So if
Wow.
you can get through 90 seconds worth of anger or pain or sadness, that usually it only typically lasts for 90 seconds, which is great because I'm like, man, I could do 90 seconds. But you know what? That 90 seconds feels like hell, and it lasts
Yeah.
forever. And it feels like you're always going to feel like this. But typically, she had said that it typically lasts for about 90 seconds.
Wow.
And so, I think that's something that I've been using when I'm
Yeah.
feeling, if as a parent, if I'm upset at my kids, my daughter, or whatever it might be, 90 seconds. Hey, if I can just give 90 seconds, uh, it'll go away and I can move on to like whatever it is I
Yeah.
do here. And then same thing when it comes to grief of, you know, um, if I find myself upset about my parents or a memory or situation that I've had with them, like, and I'm reflecting on it, I can think, okay, it's going to be 90 seconds. Like, let me just sit in this for 90 seconds. So it is it's such a mental thing, man. You have to think if, because one, you're in it,
Yeah.
that's all you're so hyper focused on it. So that's
Yeah.
all you're thinking about is that emotion at that time. What does it feel like? Um, so it is a more mental thing. If you can remember to think to yourself, okay, it's an emotion. It's going to last 90 seconds. I could sit with it for 90 seconds, but then it'll pass. Right. So I think that's something that I've learned. So it's very interesting for any parents that are listening who are also maybe raising kids without a mom, or maybe they're raising kids without a dad. What encouragement would you want to give them today?
Just that you can do it. The biggest thing for me was feeling like I couldn't, and no matter what's been thrown our way, or from my way in particular, as a single parent, I've got through it. And if I can, anybody else can. I don't see myself as a super dad or a great dad or anything like that. I just see myself as somebody who's gone through hardship, who still sort of goes through it every now and then, but the main thing is I get through it. And I think that's what I mentioned earlier with self reflection. I think if you're struggling now, look back at what you've already dealt with, look back at how far you've come, what you've overcome, and then know that whatever hurdle's coming up next, you're going to get through it.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those listening, you can do it. It's tough. It's going to be hard, but you can do it is what
Yeah.
I'm hearing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, if Taylor could see you guys now, you and the kids, what do you think she'd be the most proud of?
Just how happy we are. I think going back, try not to get emotionally, but going back a couple of years, I pick the kids up from school and I just go lie down in bed, let them play around, I'll lie down on the couch. No, it's completely different. I think Taylor's seeing that. Like if she walked in, well, probably not now, but if she walked in the middle of the day, the kids running around, they're playing, they're not always on the devices. That they're engaged, they're having nerf battles, drawing, fighting, whatever they're doing. That's something that I would have never dreamed of when I was in my darkest place. And I think her seeing where I was then and where we are now as a family, supporting each other, enjoying time with each other, having movie nights, going camping. That's a new thing this year. Camping on our own has been incredible. I think seeing just that we're happy, I think that would be more than enough for Taylor.
I love that, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I can tell just from the conversation we've had, man. I can see it for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Sean, I just want to say thank you for sharing your story, man, and thanks for
no
being
problem.
open about it. Thanks for being raw and real about it, and for sharing for like you what it's really like to raise children
Yeah,
without their mom. I think like your honesty about the guilt, the anxiety that you've gone through, the daily work of just having to, to keep Taylor present in their lives is, I think, it's pretty powerful. It's powerful for me. So I want to say thank you for that. And for anybody listening, I hope this conversation just reminds you that children don't grieve in isolation the same way that we don't grieve in isolation, right? They grieve alongside us, just like how we need someone to grieve alongside as well. While grief does reshape the future that we thought we would have, it can also shape the way that we love, the way that we remember, and the way that we keep showing up for those that are still here. Again, Sean, I just want to say thank you again for being here and sharing your story. I really appreciate it, man.
no, thank you very much for having me on. It's I always say talking about them, like we mentioned earlier, it keeps them alive, and I always feel pride when I talk about it. So just thanks for the opportunity for letting me talk.
Yeah, of course. That's what we're here for. Thanks, man.
No worries. Thank you very much.